Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. I am Tanya E. Hood, a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, it simply means I've worn a lot of different hats in my life that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been giving them. Red Alert Diaries is based on the life lessons from my premier book, Red Alert. Is He the One? The pocket guide to finding the love of your life. And if you read my book, you already know that I got married at 21. And after 11 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce, having to raise my two sons alone. To reset my life and survive my divorce, I took the time I needed to get to know me better, which opened me up to new love again. So now I'm in a new marriage to the love of my life and my best friend, which just proves there is life after divorce. On this podcast, we have conversations that's real talk, marriage, divorce, money, and legacy. And I want you to join me on the journey. Call 240-532-2227. That's 240-532-2227. I want this podcast to challenge your thoughts and inspire you to grow. So together, we can operate in excellence. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about how I press past my comfort zone. There's so much that's happening in our world that we often feel we have no control over. We can't make political decisions, and we hope that the people that we vote for will do the best for us. But we often find, unfortunately, is that our personal desires or what we anticipated taking place doesn't. So we feel like we have no voice. We feel like we have no control. I want you to know that there is always something in your life you have full control over, even if it's just your attitude about the situation. You see, that's one of the first things I had to discover after my divorce. Going through that divorce left me broke and broken. I no longer knew who Tanya was. I didn't know my favorite color. I didn't know my favorite flower. I had one beforehand, but having spent all that time making certain that I was focused on my husband's desires, the kids and their desires, Tanya stopped looking at her desires. I stopped sharing things that I really wanted to have in my life because often we are made to believe it's selfish to consider ourselves and consider our thoughts, what we would like to have. Even decorating my home was done to his liking. And I didn't have a problem with that because I'm not the type of woman that wants to be happy homemaker. If it's comfortable, cozy, I can do the things I like in it, I don't really care. So it wasn't a big deal to me that my favorite color was never seen in my home. It wasn't a big deal to me that the couch that was picked or the decorations and furniture that were chosen was something that I didn't choose. So even in my home, which is supposed to be our personal sanctuary, there was very little evidence of me. So when I ended up going through a divorce after 11 years of marriage, I didn't have evidence of me. So what did I do to get to the space where I was beginning to be whole? First, major moments of moving past your comfort zone was what I eventually had to experience. I moved out of my 3-bedroom home into a 2-bedroom apartment. And for me at that time, I had not been in an apartment in my adult life. I was raised in a home, and so apartments to me seemed small. Not having a backyard for my kids seemed wrong. But that apartment was my reset in my environment, my reset in my thoughts, my reset in how I would process what was going on in my world. I was no longer going to allow myself to feel like I was a victim. I had to take some control. And granted, this was not an overnight journey. The first couple of months after my divorce, I could do nothing. It took everything in me to just get out of bed. So I sent my children because I'm kind of grateful that it occurred over the summer. And school let out for them, school let out for me, because I sent them to my mom to keep me from having to figure out what I was going to do, how to prepare, because I was the type of mother that prepared events and activities, and I had fun with my children. I enjoyed going on adventures with them. But when your heart is broke, when you're filled with pain, adventure is the last thing you think about. So I couldn't do it. I didn't have enough strength in me to get me through the day and to help them through it as well. If you find yourself in that same situation, be patient with you. I want you to know that it is okay to let you be first in the moment of chaos. It feels like, because society says that you should not allow your feelings to come before your children's needs. I want you to know that if you are broke down, have a screwed up, messed up thought process, and you are malfunctioning, you'll be throwing that on your kids. So do what you need to do to get you whole. And if it means you have to ask others to step in, stand in the gap to give you the space you need. I had a clear idea of the time period that Tanya had to at least get something together, because my mother wasn't going to keep them all the time. She didn't mind the summer, because summer was something that we typically did together, which was helpful. But there was a limit on that. So for the first couple of days when they were gone, I barely got out of bed. Where the chaos that was revealed in my home, had you walked into it at that moment, clothes was everywhere, food and dishes all over the place, carry out crap because I wasn't cooking. It was chaos after 2 weeks of malfunctioning, because I'd also lost my job. So unemployed, no kids, depressed, not diagnosed technically, officially by a doctor, but those moments that you experience, even if it's an undiagnosed situation, they're real. The feeling of not wanting to do anything at all is real. And I want you to know that sometimes in your self-diagnosis, be clear and define it, because you cannot fix what you will not define. So I finally made a decision. Didn't define it, depression, but I did define the fact that I was in mess, physically, spiritually, literally. It was horrible. So my first thing was one thing: make up my bed. It was everything in me just to do that. It took me another whole week to consistently make up my bed. I didn't do anything else in the house. All I did was make up my bed for a week straight. With my bed finally made, it gave me the strength to start clearing out some of the other things. I slowly cleared out the trash and the food and the mess that was in the room, worked my way out of the bedroom into the living room, finally cleaned up the kitchen, actually went and got some groceries because I still had a little bit of money left in the bank, but it wasn't a lot. And I knew I had to put together some sort of strategy to get some finances in the house before I went and got my kids. But I didn't have a clue. If you don't know what to do for a full gamut of what takes place, write down what that looks like. I knew the area that needed fixing. I didn't have a strategy to fix it. But listing it out was one of the things that helped me move into a better direction. So cleaning my bed helped me get to clean the house, which helped me start looking at other things in my life I needed to clean up. Finally got to the place where I realized I've got to unearth some sort of skill that I bring to the table, because I had to find a way of getting the finances in order, because the divorce put me in financial devastation, where my credit score went from 736 down to 526. And the money that was in the bank was fast in its depletion. I didn't know what else I was going to do. And I knew that getting a job, I was still looking, but it wasn't coming through. So what was I to do in the meantime? There is one something that you are capable of doing that you can start leveraging to start changing some elements in your world. It took me a minute to just go back and rediscover Tanya. So this is what I did. Took out a sheet of paper, wrote down all the things I could think about that I did. What was I good at? I like to read, so I wrote down things that I like to do as well. When I looked over that list, it dawned on me that there were some other elements that I can put in place. Now, granted, it took me a minute to implement some of those things. So after I brought my children home, got more stable, getting them together, I had to create a routine for them and me. Creating a routine helps you create good habits as long as it's a good routine. By doing that, it gave me room to not have to think about every single thing, because when you're in chaos and breakdown, thinking about how to move past all of the stuff in your world can be overwhelming. But a routine that you develop consistently to support you and those around you can give you some wiggle room to start thinking of other ways to be whole and healthy. So I figured out how to put my children on a decent schedule, which was easy for me because they were already kind of scheduled. I just had to recuperate from the visit with my mom. Because here's the thing, the mama that raises you is not the grandmama that shows up for them. She had me on a clear schedule, which is where I learned to schedule my children. But them little boogers didn't have a schedule with grandma. So I had to reset my household rules. Create what you need to keep you whole. I discovered in resetting some of those rules that there were things that I could not put back in our usual schedule because some of those things required their father to step in. There were activities that he did with them. I couldn't fill in the gap for that. So what I decided to do was create the schedule that kept the household safe, sound, and gave them a platform so that we can create a new foundation. It's okay to not do everything that you once did in your marriage once you become divorced. It's okay to not have to pick up all the falling pieces. Your kids don't need all of that. What they're really looking for is, are you going to still be here? Because they realize one parent is not there. But if you are there, consistently showing up, whatever that looks like. And for me, it was just 30 minutes of consistent time that I had already done with my children, but I had to make certain I was real consistent with it because I sort of stepped in and out of it when I was married with their father. But being divorced and on my own, I couldn't let the gaps keep being there. I had to shore that up. So if you need to be clear about what to do for them, be clear about what you can truly consistently stand in. So the next thing that I did was, what did I say? So I was talking about the routine. So establishing the routine for me helped establish the routine for them. And that consistency opened me up to being able to do some other things. I began to see how to get my finances in better order because I started leveraging skills that I brought to the table. And that piece of paper that I wrote down, the things that I liked, the things that I thought I was good at, I also went one step further. I asked family and friends, what's the one thing that comes to mind when you think of me? That gave me more insight because often we don't see ourselves the way others sees us. And there's a natural gift that you bring to the table. You see, I've shared this before. Each one of us are born to be a solution to a problem that the world has. And that gift that you bring, that is a solution for whatever that thing is, you do it naturally. You do it automatically. It is not a thought in your head about how to get it done. So you don't see it. You don't know how brilliant you are. You don't often know how you are the solution. That thing that you do where you just automatically walk in and start organizing and structuring, that is a strength that you bring to the table. That way that when people come to you The comfort just being in your presence is a strength that you may not be mindful of. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. You can move past your comfort zone and create what you need to be whole. Just do it one step at a time, consistently. Even if it's small, you can get it done. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to reach out to me. Go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the Work With Me tab and find out the various ways that we can be a support system with one another. And if you're on Clubhouse, join me in the Red Alert Diaries room at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that we can continue this conversation or we can start a new one. This is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.